It's day 66, and in the harsh world of Kenshi, our gangsters return from Squin, where in the last video we had 2 of our top G's get knocked out and thrown into the Shek Prison of Squin. There's about 160 different citizens at Squin, so it's pretty heavily guarded. It was our newest recruit, Cat. We just got him out of a Dust King tower, but he got into an argument outside of a bar, and that immediately caused all of the Shek forces to turn against the gangsters. Toro is stuck in Shek Prison as well, and she's B01's personal bodyguard, so there's no way the group could just sit around. So today's mission is going to be breaking into the Shek prison and freeing Toro and Cat without losing any more gangsters in the process. Before we could even begin healing, a group of Shek scouts ran into Bad Guy City and began battle. The group just got home from the escape of Squin of the last episode, so this battle was very unwanted. The gangsters ended up holding their own, but not without many knockouts and injuries flooding the battlefield. You see, the Sheks have now made our gang, the Catastrophes, their enemies, so now we're going to have even more attacks on our outpost, plus there's going to be the constant threat of whenever we run into Shek groups, they're now going to attack us on sight. We needed to get everyone healed up and then try to train in the meantime, but this was proving to be difficult as moments after the first battle, we had a second group arrive and start to fight. Just thank Okran for all the settlers and the bodyguards we have at Bad Guy City. If it wasn't for them, these fights would definitely be crushing most of our forces. The Sheks all have higher base health points than most characters, plus they prefer to use big weapons like planks and fragment axes, which inflict a lot of damage when they connect. B01 ends up surviving the longest in most of these battles, even with his left arm being broken. He was able to hold on until around 4 AM. This was not good though. The Sheks were starting to really do a number on our gangsters, and with everybody being knocked out, it was really up to our visitors and tourists to defend our town's honor. Since everybody was severely injured and knocked out, we were looking at a full day of resting, if that would even be allowed by the Sheks and the local bandit groups. Meanwhile, in Squin, Toro had just recovered from her injury she endured during the escape in the last video. She decided she would set herself free from the cage once again, but this time give the backpack to Cat. Meanwhile, she would sneak out of the tower. Her stealth and athletics were being crippled by her heavy armor, so she took her armor off and began to run down the tower. She ran down 2 floors, but once getting to the first floor, every Shek was alerted and onto her. The alarm would ring as she would run out of a tower and then up the stairs and past the Shek guards at the gate who were chasing her now. They're way stronger than Toro. I mean, she has really high stats, but she's never going to last on her own against all of them. But on the flip side, her athletics is around level 82, and without any equipment, she's a lot faster than most of the Shek guards. Fleeing to the east of Squin, Toro would make the goal to loop around the Squin City's road until she was on the other side. Not even halfway there, the guards would begin to give up one by one, realizing they'll never catch her unless she trips on a rock or something. So all by herself, Toro had successfully escaped from the Shek prison. And while they may be able to catch her and imprison her, unless they take off her arms and legs, there's really no possible way to keep Toro contained. She has the mission to protect B01, the hero of the Catastrophes, and within an hour, Toro was running back towards home, meeting up with B01. This was great for us, as Toro was arguably one of our strongest gangsters. But meanwhile, this still left Cat inside of Squin. He had Toro's backpack now, and seeing as she didn't return, he knew that either she made it out, or possibly worse. The backpack was so heavy, Cat knew he had to throw it on the ground and begin to lockpick himself out of his shackles. He has very low levels compared to Toro, so if she couldn't make it out with a backpack, chances are he probably won't either. While Toro is one of our strongest gangsters, ironically, Cat is probably our weakest gangster. But still, he was able to pick himself free and began to sneak down to the police tower in an attempt to escape. It was nighttime, so he had that at least on his side, and the Shek guards would run past him without noticing. Surprisingly, Cat made it all the way outside and then up the gate stairs. There were now 3 Shek guards, so we had one chance to get by them. Attempting to sneak by them did not work. Once they discovered Cat, he tried to make a sprint for freedom, but was instantly stopped and knocked out. Back to prison he goes. Cat hasn't even seen Bad Guy City yet, seeing as he just got out of the Dust King Tower and then winded up here within a few hours. He hasn't even met most of the gang either, so it really doesn't matter if we get him back to the gang or not. But B01 can't just allow Cat to become property to the Sheks for all eternity. While sure, Cat might have had no skills, levels, weapons, armors, bitches, or anything that made him valuable, he was still a gangster of the Catastrophes, so allowing him to die in a Shek prison would be an insult to the gang. Catastrophes didn't just set up a whole town and make a gang for nothing. So while it might be easier cheaper, and faster to just hire a new recruit. This is all about saving a life and saving a brother. In the middle of the night, Toro would run over to a Squin city with a goal of breaking out Cat herself. With nighttime on her side, she'd be able to sneak into the city right past the guards at the gate and proceed to blend in through the busy streets. She made it all the way into the police station and then proceeded to run up the tower to where Cat was being held captive. Sneaking, she would make it up both the first floors undetected until she got to the third floor, to which all the Shek guards stopped. They immediately saw her and raised the alarm. There's no way Toro was going to have enough time to pick this lock and get Cat out with a dozen Shek guards swarming her. So yet again, she needed to escape Squin. Fortunately, Toro is much faster than everyone else in Squin, so she was able to make it back to Bad Guy City within like an hour. But it's now day 68 and the group has to make a new plan. Firstly, B01 needs a new arm, as somehow his skeleton replacement arm is broken now as well. Plus, we gotta get Stubbs and Foxbot some limbs because they're missing some. We got 4 in total we need to buy. The gangsters would make the mission to go to the far away way station to the east where we could find some limbs. And now that we were enemies with Squin, I need to make sure we didn't just automatically run through Squin, so we'd have to go all the way into the swamp to avoid heading straight through it. This is a much longer and laggier route, but it works, and by nearly nighttime the group arrives at the way station. We had 120k cats and began to buy limbs, and by the end of it, it set us down by about 70,000 in total. On the flip side, they were all specialist grade limbs, so this was pretty high quality stuff. And the gangsters still had enough money to grab some food and then some books for research, and now they were on their way back to Bad Guy City. The Dust Bandits are now all dispersed and screwed up since the last video where we took down the Dust King and raided their hideout. I mean, the Dust Bandits are easily 3 times weaker, maybe 4 times weaker than the Sheks. So they aren't really a threat to us at all, but the reality of the situation is there's no way we're going to be able to get Cat back by sneaking in. And we're definitely not going to be able to get him back by being loud and raiding the police station, as every guard will surely come to try and take the gangsters down. So we needed to think of a new plan. When we got back to Bad Guy City, the gangsters gave the limbs out to Foxbot and Stubbs. I forgot to get Stubbs a leg though, so we'll need to do that in a later episode. I'm just kidding. Could you imagine? Now, since the gangsters were broke again, they loaded all up on copper and iron that was stored at the base and made their way towards the way station that was to the south of them. Not before they ended up being stopped by a Shek group who were trying to invade Bad Guy City. It didn't take them long to knock them all out, and then they would be heading towards the way station and make it there by 1700 o'clock. After selling everything that they had and they scouted around the bar and recruited 2 groups of tech hunters to bodyguard our group for 4 days, and each group would cost us 8,000 cats each. We would then wait until nightfall to leave a way station and pick up one more group of mercs for 8k, costing us 24,000 cats in total. This breakout mission was far from cheap, but the plan was to distract the guards at the gate, without bringing every Shek in the city to us. And now that we had this large group of maybe a few dozen mercs, we were now able to have a lot of people healing us, protecting us, and humans shielding us. Near 20 o'clock, the gangsters and the mercs made their way out of the way station and ran towards Squin. They need to go the long way around to get to the side where the police station was on. It wouldn't make any sense to attack from the other side. And this was it. This was our chance to get Cat back from the Sheks and show them just because they have high numbers and levels, it doesn't mean the gangsters can't make life hell back for them. Cat was still working on unlocking himself and trying to find the perfect opportunity to run out and make his second escape attempt. Meanwhile, the group snuck up beside the gate and began fighting a solo Shek guard who was making his patrol. And now that the group was a bit closer, Zagan began to use his projectile attack. He pulled about a dozen guards or so, bringing them away to the gate to us, and this would cause a huge fight between the top Gs and the mercenaries and the Sheks. More and more Sheks were beginning to leave their post to begin to help the battle. The more guards we could pull over here at a time, the better, while also making sure we don't have too many guards, because that'll get a little bit tricky, dude. The catastrophes were dominating the Shek guards while there was like a group of a dozen or so at a time, but meanwhile Cat was struggling to pick his lock and set himself free. The group got even closer to the gate, and hearing the noise, Cat knew something was happening. It was time to strike, and it was time to escape. Cat would finally set himself free, and he would begin to run out of the tower and towards the catastrophes. He was chased by a couple guards, but making it back towards his gang, he was now safe. All that was left was the backpack. It had nearly 100k worth of loot inside of it, so Toro ran into the tower, picked it up, and then ran back to the group. Beep and Cat would end up getting knocked out, so B01 picked up Beep, Aventuro picked up Cat, and the group began to run away from Squin. The prison break mission couldn't have gone better. They ended up sustaining minimal injuries and secured freeing Cat from the prison. The gangsters and the mercs would head back to Bad Guy City, and finally, Cat could see the place he was now going to be calling home. Lots of training equipment here, armor, weapons, opportunities, bad bitches. Cat's gonna have a true chance to become the actual man he's always aspired to be. And while the gangsters were able to save their friend, B01 knows this is far from over. The Sheks will continue to apply pressure to Bad Guy City unless we begin to do it back to their cities. But if we really want to take the Sheks down, we're gonna have to do a lot of training and get really strong first. But thank you guys all for watching. Make sure you guys like the video, comment on it, subscribe, and check out any of my other videos. I always appreciate all of that stuff. Let me know where you think we should go in the next episode. And with that, I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace.